All right. Testing 1, 2, 3. I want to see. You guys are all muted. I want to know if you can hear me. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Yay, it's working. Awesome. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint and share my screen so we can get rolling. I specifically want to make sure that all the participants are muted. So I'm going to actually mute you folks that are not. Whoops. There we go. Looks like that's all set. And then I want to get my recording going. The recording is going, so we are good to go. Here we go. I'm going to get my screen up. And we're going to go to the slideshow here in a minute. There we go. All right, we're ready to go. Here we are. So I want to start with a story. Did you all know that Albert Einstein, besides being an amazing scientist and inventor, was a teacher? And one day he gave a test out to his class. And one of the students that was looking at the test questions raised his hand and said, "I'm a little confused, Dr. Einstein, because these questions that you're asking us today they look like the same questions that we had last year." And Dr. Einstein said, "Well, actually, yes, the questions are the same, but now the answers are different." And so I tell that story because right now, people have been asking the same questions that we've been asking for 100 years. Questions like, what do I need to do to be healthy? How do I minimize the chance that I'm going to get a virus or even be killed by a virus? What are the other things that we need to be doing to make sure that we're as healthy as possible? So those same questions are being answered differently now. And so that is why I'm here, because I want to be presenting you with a message that can answer those questions in the way that is really going to help your family get the highest level of health possible. I also want to acknowledge all of you for being here, that it is fantastic that you are engaged and that you are on this program, because certainly right now you could be just watching the mainstream media right now that keeps answering the same old questions with the same old answers, stirring up as much fear and uncertainty as possible. So today we're going to talk about things differently. We're going to have different answers. All right. Now, there we go. All right. So anybody here wishing they had a crystal ball right now? I'll tell you what, there is so much fear and uncertainty. And, you know, sometimes we just don't get to know what the future is. I get that. But I'll tell you what, hindsight is 20/20, right? What if last year at this time we knew what was coming? How would we have spent our resources to prepare? And are we going to just keep doing this every year? Is this what the new normal is? I hope not. But I'll tell you what, there's things that we don't know, but there's one thing that I do know. And that is that if next year there's going to be another badass virus coming to town, we need a better way to manage it than what we're doing right now. And the other thing my crystal ball is telling me is that we're all in this together. We absolutely are all in this together. And in fact, we really aren't social distancing, we're physical distancing. In fact, right this minute, all of us connected online, we're socially connected. So we're all in this together. And the last thing that I get from this crystal ball, it's telling me no one is coming to save us. No one is coming to save us, but we can save ourselves. We can save ourselves. I love this image of the phoenix rising from the ashes. Tonight, you're about to discover the most important things that you've got to do right now, the most important strategies to help you create this amazing bulletproof immune system. And not only will it allow you to feel better, to function better, but it'll dramatically minimize the chances of being hit by diseases or needing to take drugs or have surgeries. Look, I've been studying health for over 40 years. I've probably helped over 10,000 people get their health back. And so I want to share with you the things that I do every day. So tonight I'm going to be sharing 5 areas for you to focus on. 4 of these areas impact your health, and 1 of them controls your health. So I'm curious, which one do you think is the most important one? The control one, right? Exactly. So I'm going to go over that with you, and so you're going to discover why it's the most important one. All right, so I know that we are streaming this live on Facebook. If the technology works, that's what's also happening, and I hope it is. And I want to hear your feedback, and so if you give me a thumbs up if you agree with something that I'm saying, or if it's an aha for you, or if it's a really good nugget that you're going to get a lot of value from, give me some thumbs up on those kinds of things. And I want to know right now, everybody that wants to learn what these 4 areas are and what the most important one is, give me a thumbs up right now. I like to make sure that people are engaged in my workshops, because I know that I have given lots of workshops and more webinars, and I love speaking in the real space where I can see folks right in front of me. And so with webinars, I really want to make sure people stay engaged. I've attended a lot of webinars now as well, and I know that engagement is key if you're really going to get the value from it. So you know what I mean? Like, the person that is thinking about going to the gym, and then the person that actually shows up and goes to the gym, who's going to get the most value? The one that's actually engaged. So I really want to make sure that you're paying attention and you're getting the most out of it. And let me ask you this. How many people here have been to a workshop before, learned some amazing information, and for some reason you got distracted, something happened, and you just didn't really follow up on it? You right? A thumbs up on that? Yeah, me too. And that's happened to me. So today, though, I hope it will be different. Today, I hope that if this information really moves you, if it resonates with you, that at the end, I'm going to have you an opportunity for you to implement these ideas so you and your family can be healthier. And that's really what it's all about. So I hope that sounds good to you. And I also will be sharing my personal story with you towards the end, which is what my first experience was of what it meant to have a bulletproof immune system. And it was what set me on my path and got me to realize that after 40 years, I have this vision. I have this vision of a world where the natural state is extraordinary health. I envision a world where the natural state is extraordinary health. I really do, even in today's world, right? Because no one is coming to save us, but we can save ourselves. The problem is that right now, everyone is focused on the strength of this virus, and no one is focused on the strength of the host. I want to change the conversation that's happening right now, because I think the real power of us rising the phoenix out of the ashes is that we have to focus on the strength of the host. Now, we literally, as human beings, we used to be the super species on the planet. I mean, basically, we could go anywhere on the planet and figure out not just how to survive, but how to thrive. We used to be the super species on the planet. Right now, we are the sickest species on the planet, right? Absolutely. And the trouble is that we are still acting as though we are Superman, right? We're the sickest species, but we're acting like we're still Superman. And I bring that up because I want you to know that right now, at this very minute, we were born to be superheroes, but we've become weak. Literally, when you were born, you had superpowers that would allow you to, the potential was there for you to adapt perfectly to the environment that you're living in on this planet. But instead, what has happened is our culture has been engineered so that we are becoming weaker and weaker. The problem is not that we have a badass virus in town, it's that we're no longer the badasses that we were designed to be. Are you with me on that, right? So here we go. This is the health equation. This is the formula. It includes genetics, environment, and lifestyle. So those 3 things need to be, they all work together. There is a confluence of these factors that determine not just what your health experience is, but also what your immune system strength is. So when we talk about genetics, really what we're talking about is genetic potential. Genetic potential. And your genetic potential is going to be influenced by your environment and your lifestyle. So the ways that our genes express themselves is determined by something called epigenetics, right? Epigenetics means that there are two things that will determine how your genes will express themselves, and that's environment and lifestyle. Now, I know, I have people that come into the practice and they say, but doc, you don't understand diabetes, it runs in my family. And I just calmly want to just say back to them, well, actually, the problem is not that diabetes runs in your family. The problem is that nobody's running in your family. It's the lifestyle choices and the environment that is determining how those genes are going to be expressing. Look, geneticists have told us that the human genome has been nearly unchanged in the last 60,000 years. 3,700 generations of humans. And yet when we look at what's happening in our modern day world, you know what this is a chart of? A chart of obesity. It's a chart of obesity. And so what we can see is that in 1985, you can see the color coding here, right? White meant that the percentage of the population was like less than 10% were obese, right? In 1985, and you can see the darker blue, right? And that's where there were over 10% in that state had obesity. And then now you can see advanced to 1995 and look at how much more obesity there is. And then you go to 2005, and can you see in 2005, we've got Connecticut, Vermont, and Colorado, as well as Hawaii, were only about 15%, and everybody else was greater than 15%, up to over 20% or 25% or more, right? And then we see 2014, where there isn't any blue left there, right? And you can see how things are worsening. And here we are, here's 2020, and we can see where all the obesity is happening, and it's just getting worse and worse. Now, tell me, with these obesity trends, what changed here? What changed? Was it the genes that changed in just that short, few decades? No, it was not the genes. It was the environment. The environment changed. Our lifestyles changed. The lifestyle choices that people were making changed. It's even hitting our children. The next generation is actually getting there even faster. It's accelerated, and it's having devastating implications for the future health of our population. Now, I bring this up for a couple reasons. One is that it's a testament to how the chronic illnesses have become normalized in our culture. But I also bring it up specifically because some of the latest studies are now finding that obesity is actually linked to severe experiences of the coronavirus disease, especially for younger patients. And so in this article, they talked about how obesity is also known to cause chronic low-grade inflammation and an increase in circulating pro-inflammatory cytokines, which may play a role in the worst COVID-19 outcomes. What they're finding with the worst COVID-19 outcomes is that the body goes into an inflammatory response, and then it goes into a hyper response where there's nothing holding it back. And that's what pro-inflammatory cytokine storms are. And they're finding that with obese patients, it's happening more frequently. Another study from China had a group of 112 COVID-19 patients, and they reported that 17 patients who died, 15 were either overweight or obese. And it's not just in this particular pandemic that we're noticing the role of obesity, but also back with the swine flu epidemic, the H1N1 influenza in 2009, that also revealed that people with obesity were more vulnerable to infectious diseases. And the other thing that we learned at that time was that the studies were showing that obese folks do not get the same protection from influenza vaccinations that others do as well. So if you're thinking that the vaccine is going to be here to save you, then you should know that it has its weaknesses and limitations. Now, these were a couple of, I think, Instagram posts that came up when this article came out. This report came out about obesity in the link. And you can see on the left-hand side, it has a list of 12 nations. This is a list from, I think it's from the CIA.gov, and it's a list that shows that the United States is the 12th highest rate of obesity on the planet. And it's also the only industrialized superpower in the top 25. So again, I love what this comment is. No judgments, but is there more than that we can be doing? Is there more we can do to be a healthier nation and perhaps better prepared for the next, and we know it's saying the next virus or pandemic that comes through? This other Instagram post on the right, it's again talking about New York City scientists, largest US study shows obesity is the single biggest chronic factor. And down the bottom again, perhaps it's time to have a real national discussion about the overall health of Americans. And that's exactly what conversation I want to be having. I'm so glad you're here tonight with me, having it and opening up our minds to looking for a better way. Look, people have never been sicker. In fact, the CDC told us in 2009 that for the first time in the history of man, children born after the year 2000 are not expected to live as long as their parents. So we know that obesity is the linchpin to chronic disease. And we know that the treatment of chronic disease accounts for 86% of our $2.6 trillion healthcare burden. And it's a lifestyle disease. You know, smoking is a lifestyle disease. Obesity is a lifestyle disease. Look at this, the trending with diabetes. Look how that's skyrocketing. Look at heart disease. Again, this shows the percentage of adults whose heart age is 5 or more years older than their actual age. So people are aging before their time. And you can see how prevalent it is in the same areas where the obesity was. Look at cancer, how it's rising. And so they're showing here also a projection. So you can see here we are in 2020, we have 1.91 million cases of cancer, and they're projecting as we go forward in time, it's just going to get worse and worse. I mean, are we winning the war on cancer? Not by a long shot. You can see how it's just increasing and getting worse and worse. And then we also see just overall prevalence of chronic disease in the US. Again, where are we today? 157 million Americans. And then you can see the trajectory of how it's just expected to go up over the next 10 years in a straight line. It's just continuing on. Nothing is holding it back. Here we can see the costs that are coming in relation to this chronic illness. And you can see the US has increased drastically over the past several decades. And you can see again, the projection is that it's not going to come down. It's going to continue to increase. If we look at the US compared to other industrialized countries that we participate in free trade with, you can see that we are spending 2.5 times the average of the other countries. And then we can see Medicare spending, again, just projecting to go off the charts here, right? And who's paying for all this? Well, the employers, they're noticing that their premiums are going up higher and higher. Of course, it's not just hitting the employers. I mean, it's also hitting per capita. All of us are spending more out of our pockets for healthcare. And you can see the United States per capita now in 2020, I want to go back here and just point out one thing here. Let's see. So when we look at this rate right here, in 1970, so we're going to look at some actual numbers. In 1970, the total healthcare spending was about $75 billion, and that came out to about $356 per person. In 1970, for an entire year, people spent about $356 per person. And then if you fast forward over the 40 years, you look up to like that 2015, 2018 era, right? The costs have skyrocketed and it got up to $8,402 per person. $8,000 per person per year. That's what the stats are showing us. And now what we see here is in 2019, it's now up to $10,500 per person. And you can see we are more than double the average country here. So we're in trouble and it's costing us. In fact, here, and so if we are spending the most of any other country, $2.6 trillion a year is being spent on healthcare. What are we getting for that? Well, the Bloomberg Healthiest Country Index shows us that we're number 35 on the list. Number 35. I mean, can you even name 34 other countries? That's how low we are on the list. So we're the number one in spending in the world, but we're number 35. Like, this system is broken. I want to know, is this acceptable? Hands up if this is unacceptable to you. Give me a thumbs up if this is unacceptable. We need a better way. US ranks 34th in life expectancy at birth. And this is from 2014. I don't have the updated ones, but I promise you it's not getting any better. So listen, we were born to be superheroes, but we've become weak. The problem is not that we have a badass virus in town. Remember, it's that we are not as badass as we were designed to be. So how does the immune system work? How does it work? I want to tell you about the superpowers that you were born with. So for example, when we think of breast milk, right? Breast milk is how we were supposed to be feeding our babies when they were born. I want you to look at this picture right here. This is showing a bag of pumped breast milk. On the left, it's from a woman just pumping as she usually does. On the right, it's the same woman who pumped her breast milk the morning after she had nursed her baby who was feverish the night before. And notice how the color is different. You know why that's different in color? Because one of our superpowers is that when the baby is nursing with the mother, it's actually communicating. And it's communicating so that the mother's body will then deliver the exact nutrients and immune system that that baby needs that day. This is information that we didn't even have 5 years ago, but now we know that that's true. Isn't that amazing how this works with the breast milk? It's fantastic. And then we also have other superpowers. So our gut wall, when we're born, our gut wall is permeable. It means that the lining of the gut allows the breast milk to be able to get into the body. And that actually helps to jumpstart the immune system. And so when the baby is growing, after the baby is 2 years old, that's when those gut wall tight junctions develop and they seal up. And that's also when the child's teeth break through so that they're ready to eat on their own. So that is a superpower that we were born with, to be able to just jumpstart our immune system that way and have our gut lining be permeable in the beginning, and then it tightens up right when it needs to. How about T killer cells? T cells are part of our immune system, and the T killer cells are the ones that literally designed to find and kill cancer cells. That's a superpower. What about fever? Wow, fever is an amazing, amazing design, where we actually can heat up our bodies to kill off a pathogen, but we don't heat the body up enough that it harms us. It actually allows us to survive while we kill off the pathogen. Superpower. How about vomiting? Vomiting is awesome. It's our ability to identify a toxin and get it out as soon as possible, right? It's not, none of these things may be convenient or comfortable, but they are our superpowers. I want to talk a little bit more about how the immune system works. And so remember that really that's what we're talking about here, of bulletproofing our immune system. So I want to double click on it, unpack it a little bit. So for example, there's a lot of talk about people being concerned about a novel virus, and that's what's taking everybody out, is because it's a novel virus. Well, I just want to assure you that our immune systems were perfectly set up to deal with novel viruses. Babies are dealing with novel viruses as they grow. And we remember that we have two parts to our immune system. So I want to just have you understand this. One part of our immune system is called our innate immune system. And that's the part that is able to do something called phagocytosis, which means to eat up cells. Now, what it does is it identifies what is not us, what is non-self. So something like a pathogen or a virus, and then this part of the immune system just attacks and goes after that whatever that foreign object is. So with the virus, it'll engulf that virus and it'll pretty much attack it and kill it. And so this is our first frontline part of our immune system. It's kind of like the frontline soldiers that go out immediately, while the whole rest of the body of the army and the military is all behind. It's the frontline that goes out. Now, there's a second part of the immune system, which is more specific and more organized. And that's called the humoral or adaptive part of the immune system. It's also referred to as the antibody system, because that's the part of the immune system that actually has two different types of cells, T cells and B cells. And so the B cells are the ones that create the antibodies. Now, this part of the nervous system is like the whole military coming into attack. And what generally happens is when we look at something like viruses are something that kind of change every year. Like people say, you know, you get the flu this year and it doesn't mean you're not going to get it next year, because these flus, the strains change. The rhinovirus, the coronavirus, the flu viruses, these strains change every year. And so we don't really use our antibody system to help protect us against these kinds of things. Antibodies are there to be used to identify something so that the next time we encounter it, we know exactly what it is, and we can be very efficient in the way that we deal with that particular pathogen. So when we look at this idea of getting flu every year, right, when we talk about the two systems, remember there's the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. The innate immune system is the front line. So it's the innate immune response that is able to just go right up, attack and kill and reduce the number of viruses that are in the body very quickly, so that it doesn't have a chance to take hold. So when we talk about seasonal illnesses, it's the innate immune system that's important, not our antibody system. And the T cells of the adaptive system, which are the ones that help to tag things so that we then can recognize it and make antibodies for it, right? That does take a lot of energy, and it is useful for certain things that we encounter that are not changing all the time. But as far as a novel virus goes, we are well equipped because we have this innate immune system that is just ready to attack anything foreign that comes along. Now, one part of this innate immune system that's important is tagging the virus so that we recognize it, and the T cells are what then go and recognize it. But there's another part where these two systems work together, and there's something called a T-reg cell, a T regulatory cell. And the regulators are the ones that will go in and make sure that we don't have a hyper response. So when we think of this idea of we need to ramp up our immune system to have upregulate it so that we can attack the virus very quickly, we do want that to happen, but we also want to regulate it so we don't have a hyper response. Remember I talked about the hyperinflammatory cytokine storm. That's the thing that is most deadly with this coronavirus, is when people are going into a hyper response where they have an autoimmune response to it, which is an overreaction. So I wanted to bring that into play because the T regulators are part of the adaptive immune system that kind of turns the immune system back down once the job is done, so we don't go into a hyper response. And the other reason why I want to talk about that is because I'm going to be talking about some supplements that are useful. And the reason that I'm going to talk about those supplements is that in order for the T regulators to work properly so that we have the proper immune response, there's certain supplements that are needed for those immune cells to work properly. So if your T cells don't get what they need, that's going to cause a deficiency in your immunity. That's going to weaken you. Okay, so I hope that that is useful for you to understand it at that level. And you know, what are the implications of us getting weak from all of this lifestyles, and over the years how our systems are getting weaker? What are the implications of this? Well, in this particular situation, the world shut down. The world shut down because we have a higher than we want it to be, a segment of our population that is vulnerable because they've gotten weakened. So the way our world dealt with this is, okay, stay at home and wash your hands, no hugging or high fives, hope and pray that a vaccine comes. Is this the best that we've got? You know, the world shut down, not just a town or a state, the world shut down because we have a segment of our population that was vulnerable. So if we think of this idea, is the vaccine the answer to this? Let's take a look at what the track record is of just like flu vaccines. So flu vaccines, there's a lot of coverage. There's 75% of our population is getting a flu vaccine at this point in time. And we've had flu vaccines for what, maybe 50 years or so, we've had flu shots available. And you know, a lot of people get them. And yet, year after year, for example, last year, we still had 35 million cases of the flu. And out of that, 34,000 deaths from the flu. And I don't think it was just the ones that didn't get the flu shot that got the cases and got the deaths. In fact, how many of you who have gotten flu shots got the flu right after it? I hear that over and over again. So if you want to learn more about vaccines, there is a great docuseries. It actually starts tonight, and we're doing our best to get the link up on our Facebook page. I'm not sure if we can get it up there by tonight, but what we'll do is we'll send you an email that has the link, and it's actually free. It's going to go over the next, I think it's 9 or 10 days, and it's free to watch it. Each day is a different episode. So I encourage you, if you have questions about vaccines and you want to understand it more, it's a fantastic resource. Now, if we, again, continue to look at the track record for the flu, well, first off, we know that the influenza vaccination, it's only 40 to 90%. Actually, it has been 40 to 90% ineffective over the past 15 years. That means some years, like last year, it was only 9% effective, right? Over the past 15 years, it's not very effective. We also know that the effectiveness is very inconsistent, and it really ignores the immune system complexities. So remember, we just talked about the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. The adaptive immune system is the one that has the antibodies. So all vaccines are measured about how effective they are by looking at whether there are antibodies. But none of the vaccines will trigger the innate immune response. They only trigger the adaptive immune response. So they're only going after the wanting to see that the antibodies are there. But these two systems, they need to be working together in order to have an effectively running immune system. They also found that the influenza vaccine effectiveness dwindles with repeated vaccination. The more you get, the less effective it seems to be. And influenza vaccines can increase the recipient's susceptibility to non-vaccine influenza viruses and other acute infections. So what they're finding is that if you get a number of flu vaccines, here's an article that showed that there was an increase in flu-like illness after the flu vaccine. And these are examples of flu-like illnesses. And notice what's in here. Coronavirus is one of the flu-like illnesses. So my concern is that people are trying to do their best to get protected. They're using a vaccine which actually may be causing them to have a worse response. And what I'm wondering is that worse response because their adaptive immune system is not effectively dampening down the response, and people are going into more and more of those cytokine storms. They're having a worse reaction than they should have if those two systems were working together in the way they should have been. And so here, this is just another study where they looked at, back in 2005, they had a SARS vaccine, SARS corona vaccine, and when they were trying to make it to have as something that could be used, what they found is that when they used it in the laboratory animals, the animals did get the antibody. They were able to measure that, but as soon as they introduced the live wild virus of that SARS coronavirus that they were being protected against, as soon as they introduced a natural infection, the bodies went into a cytokine storm. They went into a hyper reaction and the animals died. And so they never were able to get it to human trials. So I have a lot of concern about the vaccines that they're trying to rush through right now. I have a lot of concern about it. because they've had so much trouble in the past with them. So this is the series that is coming up that starts tonight, The Truth About Vaccines. And again, we'll do our best to get the links to you so you can watch it. So again, it's time to change the conversation. We need to stop focusing on the strength of the virus. We need to start focusing on the strength of the host, right? So it's time to, and that's so that you won't be weak. Who's with me here? Is that what everybody wants for you and your family? I hope so. But why is it that we are weak? How has this happened that we have gotten weaker? And I think the reason is that I think there are three reasons. The first one is that our culture has been engineered so that people are not taking personal responsibility for their health. I mean, think about it. Who is in charge of you? Who is responsible for your health? Is it your MD, your wife, your mom, your accountant, your insurance carrier? I hope not. The government? Who is in charge of your being responsible for your own health? We have to take that responsibility back. The third reason I'm going to tell you later, and then the second reason is because we've also lowered our expectations of health. Chronic illness has become normalized. And when we normalize it, we stop trying for more. So we've normalized the weak immune systems, we've normalized chronic disease. And with that normalization, we're literally changing our definition of health. And this is what I mean by that. People actually think that sickness and health, that they're opposites, that sickness is the opposite of health. And they think of it as like a toggle switch. They can just switch back and forth between healthy and sick. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, someone says, oh yeah, well on Monday, I started to not feel so good. And on Tuesday I was sick. Wednesday, I was so sick. And then Thursday, I started to feel better. Friday, I was a little bit better. Saturday, I was feeling really good. Yes, by Sunday, I was healthy again. People think that health is just how you feel. You know, like they can just a toggle switch that you can flip back and forth. But the reality is this. Most people are spending most of their lives in the not sick zone, but not being healthy. And they're calling that health. So listen, unfortunately, when they spend their lives toggling back and forth, it's really back and forth between sick and not sick. You see, there's a difference between sick and not sick. There's a difference between sick and diagnosed and sick and undiagnosed. There's a difference between sick and symptomatic and sick and asymptomatic. And so I want you to just really take this in. So there's a difference between not sick and healthy. So we need a better definition for health than just not sick. It's the wrong definition and it's leading us into trouble. And so people really think of sickness and health this way, and then they're making decisions based on that. So I want to give you a better description of how we can think about health. If you see this illness wellness continuum here, remember, we are all on this health continuum. And so you want to ask yourself right now, where are you on this continuum? And there are three zones here. The left-hand zone that's red, that's early death. The right-hand zone that's blue, that's high-level wellness. Right in the middle is the not sick zone. So we have the sick on the left, the not sick in the middle, and the healthy on the right. All of us are somewhere on this continuum, and this continuum represents the potential spectrum of health. And remember that health is dynamic, it's fluid, it's always changing, it's never static. So you're either going to be moving towards health or away from it. So which way are you moving right now? Like mentally put an arrow above wherever you marked yourself of where you are in there, right? Which way are you which direction are you headed? And right now, these days where we are staying at home with our families, right now, you're only as healthy as your family. So if you thought about, you know, whoever has a spouse here, whoever has kids here, right? That's the same question. How about your spouse? Where would your spouse be on this continuum? Where would your kids be right now on this continuum? And which way do you wish they were moving? And if I asked your kids, what direction do they want you to go in? What do you think they would tell you? What direction? So let's now talk about this idea of the immune compromised. What does that really mean, the immune compromised? Let's still unpack this a bit, because when we talk about this idea of the immune compromised, remember that with this current situation in our world, with this coronavirus virus, there's contagiousness that we're concerned about, and then there's dangerousness that we're concerned about. But those are two different things. This is only dangerous to the immune compromised, right? It's contagious. Lots of people are going to get it, right? The CDC is expecting that 80% of our population is going to have a COVID-19 experience. Whether we like it or not, we are going to encounter this virus, and most of us are going to come out fine. We're going to have the immune systems that are going to be able to handle it. But it's the ones that are dangerous, that are immune compromised, that's what it's dangerous for. So what you should be asking yourself right now is, what do I need to do to make sure that I'm not immune compromised? What do I need to do so that I make sure that I am immune competent? Not immune compromised. How do I get immune competent? What do I need to start doing? What do I need to stop doing if I'm going to reduce my risk? So remember, we want to shift our focus from the strength of the virus to the strength of the host. All right, now what do I mean by immune compromised? What are some examples? So genetic disorders. Yep, genetic disorders may be a scenario where someone is compromised. You know, if someone has cystic fibrosis, absolutely, they're in the dangerous zone. People that have pre-existing conditions, people that are undergoing treatments like chemotherapy or using arthritic drugs, those are folks that are in the danger zone. The elderly, well, I want to just make a discernment here. The elderly that are immune compromised are the ones that for the last 30 to 40 years have been living in genetically incongruent lifestyles. And it has a compounding effect, so that now it's not just the fact that they are old, it's the fact that they have compounded this sickness over many years. And that is what makes them more vulnerable. Look, here's the truth. You don't get sick, you do sick. You don't get sick, you do sick. People that are trying to avoid the germ, it's not going to work. And here's why. Look at these acorns here. You see the acorns? What is it that an acorn is going to become? It's going to become an oak tree every single time, right? It's not going to become a maple tree or a birch tree or an apple tree. Every time it's going to become an oak tree. Really? Well, what if we took those acorns and we popped them into a jar? How long is it going to take for those acorns to become an oak tree, right? Something's missing, isn't there? What's missing? Soil, rain, sun, right? The environment isn't the right environment for these acorns, which are seeds, right? Seeds are opportunists. They're looking for the right environment. The seed is the potential, but it has to be in the right environment to grow into and express that potential. So if that seed is a virus, right, and we're trying to avoid the viruses and the germs, we can't avoid viruses and germs. They're everywhere. Germs are everywhere. And the CDC is expecting that 80% of us are going to have an encounter with this virus. So we have to understand that we have to look at the environment. The strength of the host means we're looking at the environment. If this virus is an opportunist, it's looking for the right environment. And the immune compromised are the right environment to do a lot of damage. So we shouldn't be spending energy trying to avoid germs. We should be spending energy not becoming the soil for those germs. Remember our continuum, right? Immunocompromised is on the left. Immunocompetent is on the right. Weaker is on the left. Stronger is on the right. And the way we move in that direction, it comes from the choices that we make every single day. Every choice we make every day determines if you're getting weaker or stronger. Remember that. It's the choices that we make every day. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to be sharing these 5 areas for you to focus on. Again, 4 of the areas that will impact your health, and 1 of them controls your health. So we're going to look at all of those. And going back to our superhero analogy, what does kryptonite do to Superman? If you guys are fans of the superheroes, you will know that kryptonite weakens Superman. It weakens his powers. And so for us humans on the planet, what is kryptonite for us? It's stress. Bad lifestyle choices create stress. So, and how many people here think that stress affects your health? Give me a thumbs up if you think stress affects your health. What about bad diets? Do they affect your health? What about sedentary lifestyle? So stress is like kryptonite to your superpowers, and it's kryptonite to your immune system. It creates immunocompromise. So let's take a look at what happens in a stress response. All right, so imagine you're down at the water hole and you're trying to just get some hydration, some drinking, some water down there, and suddenly you hear some scurrying over in the other part of the savannah, and you can see that there are lions on their way towards you, right? And so here's what your body does as soon as it's aware that there is a stress that's present. Blood pressure goes up, heart rate goes up. That is so that you can start either fighting or fleeing. Your muscle tone is going to go up again in the extremities so you can run and be strong. Your digestion is going to slow down because now is not the right time to be digesting your lunch. Nope, we're going to put that on hold because that takes up too much of our resources, and we'll continue with that later, but right now we're going to stop that digestion. Reproduction is going to go down. Now is not a good time to be making babies when there's a tiger around, right? The serotonin levels are going to go down, right? So it's not a good time to sleep either. Our sensory systems are going to be ramped up, right? Alertness, fear and anxiety are going to be up. Our insulin sensitivity is going to be down-regulated, meaning that we actually want to have blood sugar high in our bloodstream because that is the delivery system, that blood sugar to be used as energy to run and fight. And so that means the blood sugar goes up, insulin sensitivity is down-regulated. We also get a decrease in our HDLs and an increase in our LDLs. And that's because we're going to be using these fats to make more stress hormones. The cortisol that we're making when stress happens, they require, in order to be made, they require these fats. And then cholesterol is going to go up because of that as well. And then clotting factors are going to go up too because our body needs to be ready that if that tiger does attack, then we want to be ready to heal up any wounds as fast as possible. Now, the other thing that happens is that our immune response is downregulated. Our immune response is downregulated because it is a very expensive system to run. And if we are in fight or flight, we want all our resources to go to survive the next minute, not for long-term survival. The immune response is for the long-term survival. So this is an adaptive physiological state that we go through, and we call it a sympathetic state. There are two aspects to the nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, right? So sympathetic is fight or flight, parasympathetic is rest and digest. Now, when we have chronic sympathetic stress, like not just when a tiger shows up, but ongoing stress, that's when we are down regulating our immune system on an ongoing basis. And that is what leads to immunocompromise. So stress is like kryptonite to your superpowers, to your immune system, because it down regulates when we're in a sympathetic state. So what are all the sources of stress that we're exposed to? Look at this. It's not just mental emotional stress or our thoughts. It comes in 3 dimensions. Toxins are also stressful to us, and traumas are stressful to us. So what we see is there are 3 aspects to stress. There are the mental emotional, the chemical, and the physical categories. Now let me ask you, how many people here feel like modern life is absolutely unnaturally stressful, especially right now? But I'll tell you what, when I would ask this question last year at this time to anybody, they all thought that modern life was already unnaturally stressful. And we just piled it up in the last couple of months, didn't we? And so how many people here think that stress is what makes us sick? We already asked that question. And so we know that it's the thoughts, the toxins, and the traumas that are the problem. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go through what do you need to stop doing in each of these categories, and what do you need to start doing? For your mindset, how you think, these are the things that are important. And we can go into a lot of detail with this, but I want to stay high end here so that you're just taking some really good takeaways. And then I want you to know that on our Facebook page, our private Facebook page, we're going to be unpacking all of these and doing short videos on all these different topics so that you can unpack these and get more from them. So the first thing I have there is limited thinking, right? Limited thinking, thinking only in one way. I think of it as tunnel vision. When we get stressed, we go into tunnel vision and we limit our thinking. And we forget that there is so much possibility in the world and so much opportunity. So I want you to understand the importance of that. And worrying is another piece here. Now, worrying is usually fear of the future. And holding grudges or feeling resentful, that's usually regretting the past. So oftentimes when we are in stress mode, we're not in present time. We are either stuck in the future or we're stuck in the past. And I want you to know that back in 1991, there was a study, it's known as the Cohen study. It was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. And what they did is at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, they had 394 volunteers. Wait till you hear what they volunteered for. They volunteered to have viruses dripped into their noses that were associated with the common cold. And some of these viruses actually were coronaviruses, not the one we have today, but they were of a variety of coronavirus. And everyone had the exact same exposure. They all had the same viruses dripped into their noses. Now, you know what was fascinating about it? Did everyone come down with a cold? No. Just like the coronavirus, people that are exposed, some get sick, some might even die, but some will have almost no symptoms at all. And so what's interesting also about that is the one factor, the biggest factor that determined whether someone was going to be sick or not was how stressed they were. Even beyond lifestyle choices like smoking or sedentary lifestyle, the stress was the number one factor that determined whether or not someone would get the common cold. All right, so I really want you to do everything you can to stop doing these things, limiting your thinking, worrying, and holding grudges. So how do you do that? That's like telling someone, stop thinking of an elephant, right? So we have to replace that is the way you do that. And so what I want you to start doing is I want you to start vision casting. What that means, I want you to start thinking about how would you like it to be? How do you want the future to look like? If you're thinking about, you're worried about your immune system, I want you to cast a vision for yourself of what do you look like with a bulletproof immune system. So in the future, if you do what it takes, what are you going to be like in the future? Or what's your family going to be like? What are your kids and your spouse? What are they going to be like when they have this awesome bulletproof immune system? So vision casting is a fantastic tool to use because it's our imagination. We're just making it up. But when we do that, our brain doesn't know the difference. So we can either go into the future worrying about the unknowns, or we can go into the future casting the vision that we want to create. Now, alignment means that we're living in congruency, that we are living with our values. And so whenever we go outside of our own value system, that's when we're going to be stressed. So really look closely at what are your values and how are you spending your day? Are you spending your day putting your energy towards the things that you value? And finally, gratitude. So it turns out that they did studies where they found that gratitude was the fastest way to turn the stress switch off. And there's a wonderful mentor of mine, Dr. DeMartini. He's a chiropractor, and he has a tool that he uses called equilibration. And basically what he does is he just says, whatever situation is up, whatever the problem is, find what's good about it. Find something you can be grateful for about it. Just go to gratitude. Some other tools that I like to use are Byron Katie's work, Loving What Is. I like to use EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique tapping. And again, we'll go into more detail with these on our private Facebook page, so you can stand by for those and watch for those to come. One other link I'd like to point you to is Dr. Bruce Lipton is a cellular biologist, and he wrote a book called The Biology of Belief. It's an amazing book, and it will help to shift your consciousness to open up any limiting beliefs that you do have. So I highly recommend that as a great read. Now, I also want to share with you another opportunity that I've arranged where I have someone whose name is Nate Wright, and he actually has been a member of our practice, and he also is an amazing life coach. And so he has offered to run an online workshop on this Saturday from 1 to 2:30 on a Zoom call. And so we have the link here. We will be sending it out to you in an email as well. And we'll also have it on the Facebook page so that you can register and be part of that. And his topic is 3 keys to navigating uncertain times, how to bring back ease, purpose into your life. And I'm looking forward to hanging out with Nate on Saturday for this call. So I hope that you can join us there too. All right. How about sleep? Okay, this is the second one. So mindset's the first one that impacts your health. Sleep is the second one that impacts your health. What I want you to stop doing is I want you to stop using screens before you go to sleep. I want you to have an e-fast. All right, the e-fast means that no screen time at least 30 minutes before you go to sleep, but even better, 90 minutes before you go to sleep. So have an e-fast. And there's a great book, pretty much the expert on sleep is a fellow named Matthew Walker, who wrote this book. He's out of UC Berkeley. The book is called Why We Sleep. He's the world's leading authority on sleep. And he flat out says that if you don't get 8 hours of sleep, you drop the efficiency of your immune system by 50%. And he says it is non-negotiable, especially when you're sick or trying to prevent sickness. You just have to get 8 hours of sleep. And he also said you can never engage in what he refers to as sleep procrastination. So sleep procrastination is this idea of staying up late to see somebody or to watch TV or whatever, and thinking that you're going to get the same quality sleep, even if you sleep 8 hours. It's not the same. So the sleep procrastination, I want you to stop doing that. And in a minute, I'm going to tell you the best time to go to sleep. The other thing I want you to stop is stressing out. Stress is the number one thing that interferes with people's sleep. And so for myself, I use something called my 4-2-1 protocol. Before, as I'm lying in bed, if I'm not just falling right to sleep, I go to my 4-2-1. So my 4-2-1 is this. I think of 4 things that I'm grateful for. So you know, we just learned that gratitude is the easiest way to turn the stress switch off. So I think of 4 things that I'm grateful for. And I really just let myself just, dive into that feeling of how grateful I am of these 4 things. And then I go to 2 things that I love, 2 things that I just love. And I just let myself feel how much I love those things. It might be, I love my bed, how comfortable it is. It could be something as easy as that. And then I go to my 1, which is one thing that I would like a little help with, that I would like to just surrender and say, yeah, I just need help on this one. So that's my 4-2-1 strategy for what I'm thinking about just before I go to sleep. And then last thing that I want to say is reducing alcohol. So some people, they actually are using alcohol to try and get to sleep. And that's going to be problematic because it actually does interfere with the deep sleep cycles that we need to reach to get the most benefit out of sleep. So stopping alcohol is going to be important because it's going to rob you of good quality sleep. All right, so what do we need to start doing for sleep? Okay, 8 hours. That's what Matthew Walker tells us. We need to have 8 hours, and here's why. We need 5.5 hours to get our regular sleep strategies under our belt, and then after 5.5 hours of sleep, that's when real healing happens. So if you are struggling with a virus, if you're feeling sick, if you are struggling with needing to recover from something, getting really good sleep is important because it's after the first 5.5 hours of sleep where the real healing happens with our sleep. Now, the best times to be deeply asleep are the hours from 11 to 1, 11 p.m. to 1 p.m. And that means you want to lay down at 10 p.m. so that you can be in deep sleep from 11 to 1. That's the greatest value you'll get from your sleep time is from 11 to 1. What else do you want to start doing for your sleep? I want you to create a sleep sanctuary. Your bedroom is a sleep sanctuary. No screens in the bedroom. No screens. Have it be dark. No little lights anywhere. No clock radio lights or little red lights from chargers or things like that. Completely dark. In fact, some studies show that having lights on, night lights on in your sleeping room can actually rob you of good eyesight. That actually contributes to nearsightedness. So you want to have a sleep sanctuary, and you want it to be quiet and dark. If you live in a place where lights are coming in from the outside, you want to get curtains that are going to just make it completely dark. All right, and then what about the surface that you're sleeping on? You want that to be really good quality. You're spending 8 hours, that's a third of every day is in bed. And so the sleep surface is important. I love the BioPosture beds, and I love the Sleep Number beds. Those are two brands of beds that I think are really good for supporting your spine and your body when you're sleeping. And I also like specific pillows to use when you're sleeping so that you can support your spine and nervous system. I love the proper pillow, but anything that's going to support the healthy curves in the spine, that's what's important as far as the sleep surface goes. Okay, diet, this is the third one, diet style, right? So diet style, what I want you to stop doing is putting toxic foods in your body. Remember we said that there are 3 dimensions to stress, and toxic food, toxicities are one of those dimensions to stress. So remember when it comes to diet style, you want to be thinking about toxins and deficiencies as the things you want to correct. So additives and preservatives, processed food is most likely to have the most toxins in it. And then remember, added sugar is a problem. In fact, they did a study, they found that when they added sugar to someone's system and they measured the immune system tanked for 5 to 12 hours after taking sugar in. And you know what they used in the study to put the sugar in? They used orange juice, a glass of orange juice. How many people here are thinking, oh, I want to get my vitamin C. I want to ramp up my vitamin C right now. I'm going to drink lots of orange juice. Nope, orange juice is loaded with so much sugar because you've taken it out of the orange and it's just the juice. So it is actually a sugar bomb. So 1 glass of orange juice tanked the immune system from 5 hours up to 12 hours. So getting rid of the added sugar is key here. And also I want you to stop starving yourself. If you're concerned about your weight, or you're trying to manage your, get the body style that you want, starving yourself is not the way to do it because you're creating deficiencies and that means your body's going to try to go into efficiency mode. So the more that you starve yourself, the less calories it takes in order to just get the baseline. And so what you want to do is you want to eat so that you are filling yourself, but you don't want to eat less, you just want to eat less often. So watch out for you're home all day because of the stay-at-home orders. There's food around all the time, and you find yourself just keep running to the kitchen, snacking and eating. So definitely you want to compress the hours that you're eating, but you don't want to eat too little. And also I want you to watch for if you are eating empty calories so that you feel full, but it's poor quality food, then you're going to create deficiencies that way as well. And that's a way of starving yourself from the nutrients that you need. So I want you to make sure that you are removing the toxic foods, the added sugar, and make sure that you're going to stop starving yourself. And so what do you need to start doing? You need to reconcile the toxicities and the deficiencies. So hydration is key. Hydration is key for the immune system. In fact, we will have more mucus that we have to deal with the less hydrated that we are, because when you don't have enough water, your body has to figure out how to create some other kind of fluid to move things around. Water is how we transport things in our body. And so we will actually create more mucus as the substitute if we're not getting enough water. So I want you to make sure you're hydrated right now and all the time, right? Everything I'm recommending is not just for right now. It's to start doing right now, but it's to keep doing as well. Paleo lifestyle, paleo diet style is what I'm going to recommend, and supplementation to reconcile the toxins and deficiencies. So what do I mean by a paleo diet style? Paleo correct means unlimited vegetables, abundant lean natural meats, some fruits, nuts and seeds, and limited starch and no sugar, right? So think back, remember we talked about our genes have not changed for 40 to 60,000 years. So what were we eating 40 to 60,000 years ago? What were our ancestors 3,700 generations ago eating? This is what they were eating: unlimited vegetables, abundant lean natural meats, fruits, nuts, and seeds, and limited starch, no sugar. And I want you to think about the plate. When you're looking at your plate, you want to be asking yourself, where's the plant? Where's the protein? Where's the fat? Where's the healthy fat, the healthy plant, the healthy protein? That's what should be on your plates so that you are paleo correct. All right, now what about supplementation? Remember we talked about the T-reg cells, that they needed certain nutrients in order to function properly. Well, what they need is vitamin D and vitamin A are some key ones that they need. And also omega-3s. So the fish oils are what provide the omega-3s. So for right now, for your immune system to really get it bulletproof, you want to make sure that you are providing what your body needs. Now, vitamin D actually got a Nobel Prize. The person that got a Nobel Prize for vitamin D, it wasn't for strong bones. It was literally for the immune response that is controlled by vitamin D. It was for infection. So make sure you're having plenty of vitamin D these days. And, you know, we are coming out of the winter now when we haven't gotten any vitamin D from the sun. And so most people are going to be deficient if they're not supplementing with vitamin D. Also, if we look at vitamin C, again, that's just one of the healthy, the components of a healthy immunological cascade. It's not just vitamin C. Vitamin E will be part of that, alpha lipoic acid as well. And the fish oil is so important as well. Iodine is really important. In fact, if you look back historically, back in like the previous flu epidemics of last century, or the early part of last century, one of the things that they used that was successful was using iodine. So make sure that you're getting enough iodine in your diet. And then there's another product. Remember we talked about the tight junctions in the gut wall, and how when you're a baby, the first 2 years, those are permeable, but then they should seal up. Well, there are a lot of people walking around that have leaky guts, and that is where the immune system can be compromised as well. So there is a product that I love that used to be called Restore, and now it has a new brand name. It's called Ion from Biome. So that's another product that is fantastic for getting that 80% of our immune system that lives in our gut, right, to get that strong and healthy as well. So supplying these essential nutrients for your immune cells is what makes you immune competent. And if you have a deficient supply, that's what makes you immune compromised. Now, I have the picture here of our Wellspring curbside pickup because we do have folks that want to order their supplements, and we can very easily just put it right outside with your name on it, so you can come in, pick it up, and you can continue with the social distancing that you need to be doing. And we also are running a special for folks that want to order supplements from us. Just send us a text or an email with what you want, and we'll have it ready for you. And anybody that is purchasing 2 or more supplements, we're going to throw in a free bottle of fish oil for you, so we can just help you support your immune systems better and better. All right, here's the next category: movement. Movement. What do you need to stop doing when it comes to movement? Stop that sedentary lifestyle. You know, as I talk with people that have had to negotiate this change in their lifestyle, where they were going off to work every day and they were going out and about, kids going to school and everything, I found that there are 2 trajectories that seem to happen. One trajectory is there's no discipline at all, and they're just deteriorating into the worst habits possible, and they're binging on Netflix or movies, and they're just being more and more sedentary. And even people that are worried because of this idea, I'm only going to go out for a short period of time, I'm only going to be outside for an hour, something like that. And so they're staying inside and they're being sedentary. So we need to just stop that. And so I want to encourage you to just look for ways to be more active. And remember that when we consider this idea of lifestyle and sedentariness, our ancestors were active all the time. In fact, they had to expend so much energy just to acquire their food that the idea of them adding adding an extra workout in would have been suicide. So we are genetically programmed to be lazy. We are genetically programmed to move towards sedentariness to try and economize, because there used to be so much demand on us just to be alive. And so don't be concerned. Don't feel like it's that you are lesser of a human being because it's so easy to move towards sedentariness. Just reconcile that idea that we will tend to move in that direction, and really get it right into your calendar. Schedule it. Schedule movement into your day. I like to recommend that as soon as you get out of the bed, put on the exercise clothes so that when it's time to exercise, you're already ready to go. All right, the other movements that you want to avoid are macro traumas and micro traumas. So remember, with sedentary lifestyle, yeah, sitting is the new smoking. That's what the research is showing us. And it puts a lot of stress on us as well when we are sitting improperly. In fact, if people are sitting, averaging 8 or 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? That's one of the things that's contributing to the increase in obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and leading to a shorter and sicker life. And so when we're doing that in front of a screen, right? If sitting's the new smoking, then screens are the new crack, right? And so this, my friends, is what's leading to this increased stress on our bodies in modern life. And so there is stress from sitting. Now, when we think of macro traumas, that's where we're, have an accident, a fall, sure, car accidents, sports injuries. In fact, I just got a decrease in my car insurance because for a couple of months, because everybody is driving so much less, that my auto insurance said, yeah, there's probably less accidents that are happening. And so I got a discount on it for a couple of months. So hopefully there are fewer car accidents happening for you as well, and hopefully none. So macro trauma, definitely something that can injure us and add stress to our body. But there's actually an even bigger physical risk in modern life, and that the real culprit for that is micro trauma. And it puts a tremendous amount of stress on our necks. And so, definitely the micro traumas are the thing to pay attention to, and the screen time that we're spending. Now, I know these people, they're a little bit closer than 6 feet apart right now, but you can see that it goes across the ages, right? Tech stress is a problem, and it's arguably one of the most serious health threats of our modern world. And I'm going to explain that to you why right now. So when we have that improper alignment, it actually can cause misalignments in our spine. And when we have joint misalignments and stress in our spine, if the vertebrae misalign, they can put pressure on the nerves. So you can see in this picture here, you can see the bones, and in between the bones, you can see the yellow nerves there. Those nerve roots come out from between the bones. And if the discs get worn down or compromised, they can put pressure on the nerves. But if the bones misalign, they can also put pressure on the nerves. So if the joints are misaligned, it creates soft tissue damage in the ligaments and the tendons around that joint. That creates inflammation, which then leads to nerve irritation. And when the nerves get irritated, your smart body is going to strap that joint down with muscle spasms. And that creates joint fixation. Now, what happens when we have joint fixation is the signals going to the brain that usually are carrying signals of healthy movement in these joints. When the joint gets strapped down, it sends a stress signal to the brain. And we actually will increase stress hormone production when we have these misaligned vertebrae. So cortisol levels will go up when we have these subluxations or joint misalignments. And when cortisol goes up, just like we learned, it alters our immune function. So we have this suit of armor that is protecting our nervous system, and that is the spinal column. And that's why misalignments of the spine, or subluxations as they're known, are so detrimental to our health, is because those misalignments in the bones are happening in the suit of armor that is protecting our nervous system. So our spine is our lifeline. Our spine is our lifeline. And just like our skull protects our brain, our spinal column is the suit of armor that protects our spinal cord. And the spinal cord is what's carrying the messages from the brain down through the spine and then out through the spinal nerve roots that go to every part of the body. So remember when I said that I was going to be sharing with you the 5 areas to focus on? 4 of them impact your health and 1 of them controls your health? This is it. The nervous system is the master system in the body. it is what controls every other system in the body, including the immune system. The nervous system is what modulates the immune system and directs the body when to turn the immune system on and when to turn it off. So we can actually see a map of the nervous system where we can see the nerves that come out and exit from the spine. They go out down to the arms and the legs, but they also go to all the organs. And so we have one part of the nervous system that goes to the organs and then another part. And they control how those organs are running and whether or not an immune response is going to be activated or not. Now, the other way to look at the nervous system is there are three parts to it. One part is what perceives things, what feels things. And of that part, only 10% of the whole nervous system is there to feel pain. So the other 90% is running the organs and the muscles. So you can see the motor nerves and the autonomic nerves. Those nerves that control those functions, those nerves don't feel pain. It's only the sensory nerves and certain parts of the sensory nerves that feel pain. Some parts of the sensory nerves control the posture or detect temperature differences, that kind of thing. So in all of the nerve roots that exit from the spine, they have in them all of these different varieties of nerve fibers. And so if you have a subluxation or a misalignment, it can put pressure on those nerves and it can interfere with function. Now, sometimes it might cause pain, but that's only 10% of the time. The other 90% of the time, it could be affecting your health without you feeling any pain. It could affect your muscles control, and it could affect the autonomic nervous system, which is the nerve supply to the organs, the blood vessels, and the glands. All right, so remember that the stress response, when it happens, our immune response is, it tanks. And when we have subluxations, our stress response is increased. And remember that stress is the kryptonite. It is the kryptonite that weakens our body and weakens our immune system. Chronic stress creates a downregulation of the immune system, which makes us immune compromised. So subluxations are kryptonite. They are what are creating weakness. So when it comes to the things we want to start doing when it comes to movement, we want to start exerting ourselves. That means panting and sweating every day. You want to be panting and sweating a little bit every day. Exertion is what helps to turn the stress switch off as well. And ergonomics. So ergonomics, I know a lot of you are working from home right now, and it's not necessarily set up so that it's healthy for your spine and your nervous system. So you really want to pay attention to those ergonomics. Make sure that the screen is at eye level and that the keyboard is down in a comfortable place as well. So laptops are the death knell as far as posture when it comes to ergonomics. And I've done some Facebook Lives, some videos on that already, and we'll unpack that one as well. And then the other thing that I want you to start thinking about is getting checked for subluxation. Because if you have subluxations, that could be affecting your stress levels, which also could be impacting your immune system. And so that's a very important piece. Now, I want to, right now I want to have everybody move a little bit. And so I'm going to ask you, I can't see you, but I want you, everybody to stand up, and I want you to go through this life extension exercise with me. And I'm going to describe it to you. So you're going to have to listen very carefully. Actually, maybe what I'll do is I will see if I can pause my share. I'm going to pause the share. Let's see if that works. All right. And I want to bring up my image. Let's see if I can pull this off. If I can't, I'll just describe it to you. Let's see. Let me bring this up again. And you know what? I can't find it quickly, so I'm just going to describe it to you. See if you can follow my directions. So I'm going to go right back to the screen here so you can see it. And unpause the share.
This is what we saw the other day. I don't know if you did.
My screen is, your screen sharing is paused. Oops, let's try it again. Resume. All right, here we go. We're going to go back to our, here we go. All right, so you can see this woman has her arms up in the air. This is in the shape of a Y. So the first part of the life extension exercises is to hold your hands up in a Y shape. And I want you to stretch your fingers as far out to the sky as you can and take a few breaths in and out. And you're going to hold this posture for about 20 seconds. And then the W is I want you to take your elbows and try to put them into your back pocket. That is the W part of it. And push, push, push into your back pocket. The L is I want you to make your elbow come right next to your body so that your hand is at an angle out from your body. And then I want you to open your arms wide so that when you wiggle your fingers, if you're looking straight ahead, you can't see your fingers wiggling. That's the L shape. And then the T is spreading your arms out to the side, stretching them straight out to the side. That is the T with the palms up. And again, wiggling the fingers, you shouldn't be able to see them with your eyes if you're looking straight ahead. So this is something that should be done at 20 seconds for each position, and you should do one round for every 2 hours of sitting that you're doing. YWLT, that stands for you will love this. YWLT, you will love this. That's the life extension exercises, all right? So everybody now has moved their body a bit. I'm so glad that you've done that. And now I want to tell you about the curious example of Masha and Dasha. And I'm telling you this because it actually does relate to the spine. Now, Masha and Dasha, they were Siamese twins. And they were born in the Soviet Union. And they were raised, actually, it was too dangerous to separate them. And so they were raised together, joined together as Siamese twins. And so you can see from this, this artistic rendition where they shared a pelvis, and then their spines, they had separate spines that went off to the side, one on each side. One of them was a little bit more tipped over than the other. But what was so interesting about Masha and Dasha is that one of them would get a cold and the other one wouldn't, even though they shared a bloodstream.
Weird.
They shared a bloodstream. So if they had a virus, that virus was moving in both of their bloodstreams, but only one of them would get a cold. Only one of them would get the measles and the other one wouldn't. And all the other childhood diseases, they wouldn't get them at the time. Isn't that amazing? So that is the curious example of Masha and Dasha. And what does that tell us? It may not be the virus that is actually the thing that causes us to be sick. That's what it tells us. And when could we ever have had anything else that could help us understand that? But what was it that was different? One of them that was more sickly, that got sick more often, it was the one that was more tipped off to the side. Isn't that interesting? So the spine, the health of the spine may have been a factor here. I want to now share with you the story that started me on my journey to being a healthcare practitioner. This is an image that was taken of me when I was 16 years old, and actually 3 years before this, when I was 13 years old, I had a case of strep throat. Now, what also happened at that time was my father changed careers, and he went off to become a chiropractor. And when he came home on vacation, his first vacation, he came home to me with strep throat. And so the first thing he said when he saw me is he says, "Oh, well, we better check your spine and nervous system." So he checked my spine and nervous system, and he gave me my first chiropractic adjustment. I'll never forget it. And what do you know, my throat that was so painful, I couldn't even swallow. It was so painful. But 2 hours later, it was easier to swallow. And I got better really fast. And for me, that was the first time that I ever had this idea that my body was built to be healthy, that it actually could be healthy. And I asked my dad, "How does this work? You adjusted my spine and it made my immune system work better?" He says, "Yeah, we just needed to turn the power back on." Well, when I was 13 years old, that made sense to me. And from then on, I was interested in natural healing. And I could see that it was the power in my own body that got me healthy. And I've never looked back. So here it is, over 40 years later, and I still have this vision of a world where the natural state is extraordinary health. And I want to share with you a couple other stories from folks. I want to share my biggest gratitude to our frontline healthcare workers that are working so hard right now. We actually initiated a program as soon as we saw what was happening, that we knew that these folks were going to be working really hard for us, taking care of the critically ill. And so we made an offer that we would give free care to any frontline healthcare workers. So if you know of any that are struggling right now, have them come see us. I'm giving them 6 free visits on me. I'm not going to bill the insurance, nothing. It really is on me. And I just want to help. And so some of the comments that I've already heard back from some of these frontline health workers, One is that they all are stressed. All of them are stressed. And one of them actually explained to me that not only were they, and this is somebody that actually has been in my practice for over more than a year, and they recognized that last year at this time, if this kind of stuff was going on in our culture, they would have been in a completely anxiety state. And they said that it was so amazing that this year, with the only thing that's been different is they've had great chiropractic care, and they have not had any anxiety. So their stress switch has been turned off. And they've just been able to manage things. So I've detected stress in their bodies because they're working hard right now. But she literally shared with me that her levels of anxiety were nowhere near where they were a year ago. And then Tammy was just telling me how she was working hard and had some back pain, and that being able to come in and get adjusted meant that the back pain wasn't distracting her from the job she needed to do of working with these folks in the ICU. And then Lori's work is being near patients, and with all of the extra cautions that are being taken, it means there's awkward postures with the physical distancing and the use of the personal protection equipment. And she had some trouble with neck pain. And so we were able to help her as well. So I have such gratitude for the frontline health workers that have been working hard through all of this. And I just want to show my appreciation by helping the helpers. Now, another woman, Elaine, she started care in March of 2016. She came in complaining of headaches and neck pain. And she got under care. And what we found out after she was under care, she didn't even mention it, that she also was struggling with chronic sinus infections, allergies, asthma, and eczema. And as she went through her program of care, her spine was getting stronger. We were teaching her healthier lifestyle choices to make. And each year she got better and better with the lifestyle changes. And in fact, in 2019, when she had a checkup from her doctor said her sinuses were the clearest they had ever been. And here we are in 2020. Actually, that year, she also had her best pollen season ever. She was able to do yard work and housework with plenty of stamina. In February of 2020, she reported that her breathing was the best it has ever been as well. And so that's what happens as your nervous system gets healthier and you do these make the lifestyle choices. You know, everything I've shared with you that are the 4 things that impact your health, what they're doing is they're reducing you creating more and more subluxations, and that's why they're so important. I also have had some seniors in the practice that are so grateful for their own body's response. One of them, she commented to me that everywhere around her, people were dropping like flies with colds and flu. This is even before COVID-19 showed up. And she said that she has not had any cold or flu the whole season. And that is unusual because in the past she would have. And she's been strong through this whole thing. Also, another fellow who travels a lot, international travel, long flights, and he would always get some sort of a cold or something after a flight. And he said that that's not happening at all. And that's been over the last year as well. And he even had allergies that have completely gone away, no allergies at all now. So people are getting great results with their immune systems healthier, that we can see as evidenced by what they tell us when they're under care. So what do we need to do? How would you know if you have a subluxation? Now, some of you are under care right now and you're following the recommendations, you're making the lifestyle choices that are healthier. And so if you like what your health outcomes are, then just keep doing what you're doing and just find ways to notch it up to the next level so you can just continue to get stronger and stronger. But if you're somebody that is not happy with your health outcomes, then those are the folks I want you to pay attention right now. So you may not even know whether or not you have subluxations that could be increasing your stress responses and affecting your health. And so when we check somebody for subluxations, what we do is have them come in and we actually do an exam that is so thorough that measures the presence of subluxations. We use scanning technology that looks at the nerve supply to the muscles, the nerve supply to the organs, and it measures what's happening, where the damage is. And then we can also measure it as it's getting healthier. And so for some of you, when you think of this kind of work that we do, you know, it's all of these scans that we do, it's all there. We have 4 different scanning technologies that we use to measure how stress is affecting your life and how the nervous system may be impaired from the subluxations. And I want you to just think about what that would cost if you went up to the hospital to get that kind of an exam, right? What do you think that would cost in a hospital? Like I know that somebody was reporting to me that they had an ER visit where all they had was saline solution, an exam, a chest x-ray, and that was it. And the whole time they were there, and the cost came out to $8,000 for that. So yeah, it's crazy. So what do you think an exam like this might cost at the hospital? Like, you know, maybe a few $1,000s for this kind of scanning technology. But I'll tell you right now, you can't even get this kind of technology at the hospital. They don't do this. But this is what we do here in our office. And in our office for a new patient exam, the cost is just $210 is what our regular costs are for that. So that's where we can sit down. We go very thoroughly through what are the things that have built up over time, have compounded any compromises to your health. We go into a detailed history, an exam, and we do our scans as well. Find out what the cause is, what's getting in the way of you getting the results that you want with your health outcomes. So if you are curious, about whether or not you have subluxations and whether or not this is something that we could help you with, then what I would love to do is I'd love to just sit down with you and have a conversation. And we can actually do that virtually. So what we're doing is anybody that wants to have a conversation with me, we're scheduling 10-minute conversations for free, no charge. We'll meet online virtually and we'll find out what are your concerns, how are things affecting your life, what are your goals, and then we'll have a clear idea whether this is something that would make sense that we could help you with. Also, if you have any other questions from the presentation, just that you wanted to have some more detail on, then let's schedule a conversation so that we can talk about that. A couple of questions that I do know that people had. One person asked, what is the number one thing we need to do to bulletproof the immune system? The number one most important thing. And the answer to that question is, it depends. It depends on what you're already doing. If you're already not doing certain things, you want to do the thing, and I've gone over those with you. But if you want to see what is the thing that would have the most impact, I think it's having the clear nervous system is the number one thing that'll have the most control over the health of your body. And so the other question that someone had asked was, it seems to me that people are going to extremes of trying to avoid the virus. Like even their things are being delivered and they're leaving it outside for 3 days before they even bring it into the house. And so this question was, you know, how far do we have to go with this? As far as the question was, what levels of precautions do we actually need to be taking right now? And so my answer to that question is, well, what is your objective? What is your objective? So if your objective is to avoid the virus at all costs because you yourself are vulnerable, it might make sense to take precautions like that. Or perhaps you have another household member that is vulnerable. That might make sense. What if is your objective to just keep the hospital so that it has less burden to it, you know, to flatten the curve? Well, then chances are if you're in that part of the population that is not vulnerable, then you probably don't have to take those same kinds of precautions. And maybe your reason is that your objective is you just want to follow the rules that are being given, the CDC, the WHO, what the governors is recommending for executive orders. If you just want to follow the rules, then just follow the rules. And for some people, they want to avoid being shamed if they don't follow the rules, right? So you know what, if you can't see it in the garage there, if nobody sees it, then if you're not vulnerable, then I think you don't have to be that level of precaution. Now, what if your objective is to be as healthy as possible, to get your immune system as healthy as possible? You may want to think of this idea that if you just get exposed to the virus, get your immunity, then you just move on, right? If your immune system is bulletproof, then you're going to have your encounter and you're not going to succumb to it. You're not going to have a bad outcome to it. And remember this too, that as soon as the predominant number of our community gets the immunity, that actually helps the whole community because then we have achieved herd immunity. So I hope that was a thorough answer to that question. And it was more than one person had asked that question, so I wanted to address it. Now, if you have more questions, please go to our Facebook page and write them down on the Facebook page, and we'll get back to you about them. We promise that we will, and we may even inspire us to create videos so we can really unpack it and go into detail. Now, remember I said that there were 3 reasons why our systems have gotten so weak over time? Here's the second reason that I said I would wait till the last. Procrastination. Procrastination is the thief of health. Just like we don't want you to procrastinate your sleep, we also don't want you to procrastinate on doing what you need to do to get your body as strong as possible. And so for folks that are curious about what we have to offer, I'd be happy to have just a complimentary 10-minute conversation with you, no charge. We can get that scheduled. For those of you that really want to come in and really see whether or not you have subluxations and we get the scans done, as I said, the usual cost is $210, but we are offering it special to people that are on this call, and we're going to cap 47.
I didn't think
so
it
if
was.
you want to have it capped at 47, we would be delighted to be able to do that for you.
$47.
And I wanted to just close with many people ask, well, what about family members? Can my family members get in on that too? Of course they can. Of course they can. You're only as healthy as your family right now. So if you do have any family members that also you want to get them checked, then again, please reach out to us. We're happy to do that. And so I wanted to also let you know that I am doing these talks for corporations and businesses. So if you have a business that you want to have all your employees be bulletproof for their immune system so that next year at this time, it's not a concern anymore, right, for your team, then please reach out to me and we can either do a virtual webinar, or when things go back to normal, we can come into to your workplace and we can actually do a live workshop. We'd love to do that. All right, so please click on the link in our Facebook Live if you want to schedule a 10-minute consultation with me, or you can actually, that's the best way to do it, is just to go to the Facebook Live and schedule the 10-minute consultation, or send us an email if you have our email as well, because we have sent you emails to let you know about the links and everything. So you can respond by email as well, or you can also text us on our phone, our office phone number, which is 802-985-9850. And if you text the word bulletproof, then we know that you're coming from this workshop, and we will send you a calendar link so you can get scheduled for that 10-minute conversation. And also, we're going to be sending out an anonymous survey by email that we would love to hear your feedback of how it went and what your experience was, so that it just helps us continue to improve. And also, I want to encourage you, again, please join our private Facebook group, which is Wellspring Chiropractic. Living a Chiropractic Lifestyle is the private group. And we also, I have the link there. It's the name of it is WSC Healthy Living, right? Wellspring Chiropractic Healthy Living, WSC Healthy Living. So if you have any trouble finding it, just let us know and we'll send you a link.
Was her talking?
Join. And finally, I want to finish up with this story. There was a family that had this tradition that anytime there was a birthday, no matter what the age was, there were going to be that many candles on the cake. And every candle that was on the cake, that person was entitled to share one wish that they had. And so one year, the father, he actually turned 40. So there were 40 candles on that cake. And he came with a long list of 40 wishes that he had. For example, he wished that he could take his whole family on a trip around the world. And another wish was that he could go and run a marathon. And another wish was that he could get the basement tidied up and cleaned up finally. And so he had this whole long list of 40 things, 40 years old, 40 things. He came with a paper with all the ideas. Well, the following year, when he turned 41, he came to that party and he said, I only have one wish this year. This year, I wish I could get my health back, because he had cancer. He had developed cancer over the last year. And so when you have your health, you have many wishes, but when you lose your health, you just have one. So my goal is for you and your family to have as many wishes as possible, and for you to achieve that goal of being able to bulletproof you and your family's immune systems, and bulletproof your health so you have the healthiest life possible. Thank you so much for your time and attention for our webinar here, and I look forward to meeting you soon, virtually or in person when we all get back to normal. All right, thanks so much and have a great night, everybody.
Bye, Doc.
Bye-bye.
She said bye back to me.
Bye-bye.